Baseball has always been more than a game. It's a classroom, a proving ground, a place where character is tested, resilience is forged, and champions are built. Join Coach Chuck, Coach Bucket, and Coach Matt as they share decades of experience, practical wisdom, and conversations that reach far beyond the diamond. Because we're not just developing better athletes, we're building better people, one family, one coach, one player, one community at a time. This is Champions, Not Captives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Champions, Not Captives, the show where we believe baseball is about so much more than balls, strikes, and scoreboards. I'm Coach Chuck Barnard, and every week we'll explore the lessons that baseball teaches about confidence, character, leadership, resilience, and life. Because while this game is important, what it prepares our athletes to become after the game is long over is even more important. Every player eventually hangs up the uniform, and the question is, what kind of person will they become because they wore it? That's what this show is all about. And each week, my co-hosts, Matt Rogers and Paul Bucket Benzer, and I will have honest conversations about youth baseball, travel baseball, coaching, parenting, player development, and the mindset that helps athletes thrive both on and off the field. We'll celebrate what this game does well, challenge some of the trends that concern us, and share practical ideas that parents, coaches, and athletes can begin applying immediately. Whether you are raising a young ball player, coaching a team, competing yourself, or simply someone who believes youth sports should develop great people as well as great athletes, we're glad you're here. And before we introduce today's topic and bring in Coach Matt and Coach Bucket, let's take a moment to recognize the organizations that make this show possible.
What is the real difference between a good high school baseball player and one who is truly prepared for college baseball? It is not just talent. It is not just mechanics. It is not just strength, speed, or reps. It is mindset. Baseball is a game built on failure, pressure, and emotional exposure. And when the pressure rises, the game often speeds up on players who have never been trained to manage the moment. Let me show you what I mean. Over the course of his major league career so far, Cedon Rafaela has played in 336 games. He has a career .247 batting average and a .284 on-base percentage. But if he had just one extra hit and one extra walk every 5 games, just 2 better plate appearances every 5 games, his career batting average would rise to .303, and his on-base percentage would jump to .378. That is the difference 2 better plate appearances every 5 games can make. Not a new swing, not a different body, not more talent, just better decisions, better emotional control, a better response under pressure. And when you break baseball down even further, you often see dramatic differences in performance based on the count, the number of outs, and where runners are on base. The same player with the same swing can become a very different hitter depending on the situation. That is not just mechanics. That is identity. That is mindset. That is how a player processes pressure, and that can be trained. That is what the College Track Baseball Mentorship is designed to do. This program helps serious high school players learn how to slow the game down, manage failure, control emotion under pressure, and build confidence that is not destroyed by a bad game or a bad stretch. This is not motivation. This is training. Training the mind so the body can perform when it matters most. And in the end, the real benefit of this training is not just better performance on the field. It is the building of the man, the discipline, the composure, the resilience, the leadership, the kind of character that lasts long after the final out of their career. If you are serious about playing baseball at the next level and serious about becoming the kind of athlete who can be trusted under pressure, the next step is simple. Visit collegetrackbaseball.com to learn more about the mentorship. Talent gets attention, but mindset determines who is ready when the opportunity comes. If you are serious about college baseball, you cannot train only your athletic skill set. At some point, you have to train the mind that carries the skill set into pressure.
Welcome back to Champions Not Captives. In our last episode, our very first episode, we explained why we created the show. And during the conversation we had, Matt had said something that really kind of stuck with me. He said, in the context of what we were talking about, it depends on how we define a champion. And we didn't really have time to unpack that idea, and it's a big idea. So today we're going to, because every parent wants to raise a champion, and every coach wants to develop champions, and every athlete wants to become one. But before we can do that, we have to answer the one all important question: what makes a champion? So, Matt, Coach Bucket, welcome. Today, that's kind of what we're going to talk about is what does it mean to be a champion? Uh, what is that all about? And kind of to launch, I've thought a lot about champions. That's one reason why I use this a lot in the work I do. And part of what in my journey trying to really unpack what that is, from an athletic standpoint, I looked at people like Yogi Berra, who won more World Series champions than anybody else, Tom Brady, Henry Richard in hockey, and Bill Russell in basketball. These guys won lots of championships, but there was something about them as leaders. And Bill Russell to me is like one of the great ones of all. I mean, two NCAA titles, an Olympic gold medal, and then 11 NBA championships in 13 years. That's that's an incredible streak of winning. And and not that any of these guys were by any stretch of the imagination some sort of perfect individual or anything, but I want to kind of get at what that word means beyond just I won a champion. I am a champion because I won something. Uh, Matt, you want to, from some of your experiences coaching and all, you want to kind of jump in. You're the one who first kind of put that out there on depends on how we define it, and you did that a little bit in the first episode, but we'll I'm sure have new listeners, so you want to kind of unpack that to begin. That would be awesome.
Be happy to, and I think it's a very, very deep conversation. I'm going to try not to take too much time because I think, when you define a champion, I also feel like there's two things: is how we define certain things in sports and how we define them in life. And a lot of this show is we're trying to teach life lessons through sports, right? So the obvious answer is if you're a champion, it means you won a title, right? Whether that's gymnastics, track, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, the World Cup that we just saw. But when we are coaching, and what the three of us have talked about is we're trying to build human beings and good people. I think there needs to be more than just who hoists the trophy. And I also think that it's about the process that you put into it. And then to kind of go deeper, and this might be a deeper conversation, maybe episode 3, 4, or 5. I think in the world, I think it is important how you also define success and thus how you define failure. Sadly, in our world, sometimes success is defined by how much money you have or make, and I think that is absolutely twisted and wrong. I think in life, you're a success if you have a positive impact on other people. I think in sports, you're a success if you did the best you could do, you followed the rules, you showed great character and perseverance when you face adversity, not if, but when you face adversity. So I think it's a really deep conversation to have. But your question was, how do you define a champion? Again, obviously, whoever wins the title is the champion. But in my opinion, as a coach, if an individual player controlled everything they can control, did everything they could do leading up to the situation, and performed to the best of their ability, they're a champion, in my opinion. a team, and the same goes for the team. The goal for every team should be to play your best game the next game. And if you go into a regular season game or a playoff game or a championship game, again, regardless of the sport, and you did the best you can do, and another team was better that day, as the coach of the team that lost, I would still say you're champions. So I'm not sure I really answered your question, Chuck, but I answered it the way I would answer it.
Uh,
That's
Coach
good stuff.
Coach Bucket, what about you? How would you weigh in on that?
Well, the people you talked about, those are all accolades that they won, championships and rings. And I define a champion as what they're doing after their career and influencing situations and helping change the world. And I'll give you a couple examples. I mean, Tim Tebow, was he a champion at Florida? Yes. But if you see what he's doing now for the world on because of his leadership, he's a champion on inducted children that are being stolen and captive, and he has a whole foundation that's working on saving kids around the world from being. So to me, that's a champion. Lou Holtz, he's 5'1". Yeah, he won a national championship, but the impact he had outside the game with the world and other people, that's how I kind of look at a champion. What they do after their career really, to me, enhances them as their real. Because there's a lot of guys that have won World Series and Super Bowls that are in jail. They're a champion on the field, but what did they do with their career? Another great example is Derek Jeter. I mean, how good of a player was he? And look no off-field information, no chaos, and just has continued to be spearheading baseball at a different level. That's how I kind of combine a champion, because I've been around guys that have won big stuff, but what they do outside of that is not something I would endorse.
I would agree with that. I just want to interject that 100%, Coach. J.J. Watt's another one. He never won a Super Bowl, and then he did so much for hurricane relief and all kinds of things after, and he's continuing to do so much. He's a champion. He never won a Super Bowl. So you're spot on. That's what it's all about. There are people that might cheat personally or collectively to get a championship or get a ring, and they're not champions to me. So
right. So we could debate this all day. I mean, nobody in their right mind's going to say that what Barry Bonds did wasn't amazing, but that's not a champion to me, because there's so many undermining things that haven't been exposed. And I'm not picking on them. I mean, greatest home run hitter in my lifetime. But it's just, I look at what they do after and what they're doing to pay it forward because of their reputation of being a champion.
I think about that a lot, because I kind of always begin to couch it as a champion in the game of life, and what that really means. Kind of go back a little bit to what you said too, Matt, in that what's tied into that is how we define success. Because if you're going to be a champion in life, we're kind of saying that means you're going to be successful in life. Well, what does that mean? And having a good, solid definition for yourself is really important. And what I've been struck by is that the people that I consider, as I look through any walk of life, somebody who I would call a champion because they're out there succeeding in whatever they do. One of those characteristics that I see a lot is it's always about the team or the other person, right? There's no I in team. There's none of that kind of stuff. But they have that mentality when they played sports or whatever it is they're doing, and they have that kind of mindset beyond that. It's not about me. It's about what I can do to help everybody else become better, and that elevates everybody. And it seems like those who consistently win in athletics have that. It's part of their DNA, their mindset. I say DNA, but I don't believe it's like born into them, right? That's something that they create. Um, and one of the things I always tried to do, beginning when I was coaching Little League, is help students kind of find what success means. And it was always about effort, right? It was always about striving to win, and we let the winning or losing take care of itself, right? When we take that field, we want to give the best we have that day. And you know, I'm going a little long here. I'm going too long. But even when I was in the classroom, I would have students who, you know, weren't feeling well that day. Like, oh, I'm not feeling well. What happened? I said, all right, like, what's your best? Like, are you at 60% your normal, 70%? Oh, I'm 70% today. All right, I want you to give me 70%. Right? If that's what you're at, that's what I want you to give me today. I get it. You aren't feeling that good, but I want you to give me what you have that day. And that's that kind of thing I think begin to make champions. Um, my next question is how do you think a lot of the parents that you've experienced, or the coaches that you've coached with or against, do they tend to define it like we do, or do you think there's too many who define it? One, they don't have a clear idea what success means, and two, they define it based on a specific outcome like winning versus something else. What do you guys think about that?
Coach, you
Well,
want to go
I'll
first
start off
here?
with travel. Yeah, I'll start off with what I have been watching in travel ball. We'll take it from 15 all the way down to 8. And I would say 90, and I'm pretty good at this, I would say 90% of the coaches that I know that are at that level, or friends of other friends at that level, it's all about wins. It's the focus is just winning, and there's nothing else to say about it, because that's all they care about is that $20 trophy, because that kind of validates their team. And I don't see in my eyes the stuff that you're talking about at the youth level. I don't see that at all. It's very, very win-loss driven.
Yeah.
I wish I could say I disagree, Coach Bucket, but I agree 100%. I think that's why we've all written the books we've written. I've coached 32 years. Coach Bucket, you've coached longer than I, and scouted, and we've seen the good, bad, and the ugly. And very, very unfortunately, the bad and the ugly dramatically outweighs the good. It's too many coaches coaching for themselves or about themselves, and not about the people. They're coaching players, not human beings. The players are pawns in their chess game about themselves. I wish I could disagree, but I can't. I think you see far more coaches doing it for the wrong reasons than the right reasons. I hate to be critical, but you ask me a question, I'm always going to be honest. From what I've seen for 32 years, the great coaches at every level, from little league up to the pros, are the ones that are doing it for the players, the players' coaches, and the players want to play for them. Whether you win the championship or not, in my opinion, the great coaches are the ones that have a positive impact on the human beings they're coaching.
No,
Right. And the player never forgets. The player never forgets it.
Amen. I think I touched upon it the first episode, but I'll do it again. Every single coach, I hope they're all listening, whether you coach for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 32 or 50, someday when your coaching career ends, like it or not, you're going to be put in one of 3 categories by your players. First one is they're not going to remember you, which is sad. If that happens, I don't even remember the coach. Number 2, which is worse, is Coach Matt, Coach Chuck, Coach Bucket, they're why I quit the game. That would be a tragedy. The third one is what we're all striving for, or should be striving for, Not, oh, we won. That's not what they're going to remember. They're going to remember how you treated them as a human being, and they're going to go out of their way to find you in a crowd and give you a hug and say, Coach Chuck, Coach Bucket, Coach Matt, and you're going to hug them back. That's the bond I'm striving for. I can't tell every coach out there that you should strive for the same thing, but I don't know why you wouldn't.
Right. Great point.
I agree 100%. One of my most difficult moments early coaching in Little League. I had a couple other fathers who coached with me who I know well, knew them well, and all of us, we don't like to lose, right? That's nobody likes to lose, but it was a Little League playoff game, and we had a lead. Tie and run, I believe, was at tie and run was at third base. Winning run was at second. First base is open. The other team's best hitters coming to the plate. Little League game. I'm like, all right, if I want to teach these guys baseball, then the thing to do is you walk this kid intentionally, right? Because first base is open, his best hitter. And I'm like, it's Little League though. like they should face him. Well, hemmed and hawed for about as 30 seconds as I tried to figure out what to do. And I said, all right, let's try to intentionally walk this guy. And the catcher didn't know how to do that, right? I had a little timeout, little conversation with him. And we'd never practiced that. You don't intentionally walk people in Little League. So he couldn't figure it out. I said, all right, forget it. We'll just pitch to him. It's like, hey, try not to give him a good pitch to hit, right? So he's throwing some high pitches. Well, the kid swung at one over his head and got a single, tied up the game, and drove in the winning run. And one of the assistant coaches' father just was really upset at the catcher. And after the game, I had a conversation with him. To his credit, he was very apologetic. He's like, I can't coach. I get too worked up. I can't coach, and he didn't anymore. But I also had to have a conversation with that player and the father of that player. That wasn't okay. It's on me. I'm the head coach. I need to take care of that. But that has stuck with me all these years, and what could we have done maybe to help the coach before he gets into that, understand that either how to deal with his own emotions, understand that, all right, I probably don't have the temperament to coach Little League baseball because I'm just I'm too intense. And that's something I think we've all begun to talk a little bit about, is how we can help parents and coaches begin to understand how to go about teaching young people exactly what we're talking about, what it means to be a champion. And to kind of lead into that, I want to break that down on what some of those things are that we're talking about, right? So let me just throw out some words and we can kind of say, are these characteristics of a champion? Are these the characteristics we're talking about? So confidence. Do champions have confidence, that internal confidence?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I'd rather have an average player that's confident than a great player that has no confidence.
But back to the question, you have to teach kids how to build confidence. You can say it all you want.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know big leaguers do a lot of self-talk, and I know they do a lot of stuff in their mind to get balanced to be a champion. But to ask a kid to be confident, yeah, that's fine. But what does that mean? I just struck out. So It has to be taught. And I think that's where you come in, Chuck, and the mindset and all that. That's not being taught. It's okay to strike out. Just don't make a habit out of it. You know what I'm saying? But if you have, I went up to the plate. I'm all confident. I did everything coach told me, and I struck out. Now where's my confidence? It should be the same. You got to understand the game you signed up for. Anyway, that's a great question because I think it has a lot to do with, who's mentoring these kids to be able to teach them that. And that's why the ride home is destroying self-esteem. Self-esteem may not show up until later in life because of what you remembered as a kid.
A lot of this too, and I agree again, Coach. A lot of this, there's parallels between the coaching and the parenting, right? Like, I think parents first and foremost, and parents and coaches should build things within a child, not from outside. A lot of kids and athletes, unfortunately, need outside validation instead of building it within them. And we ask, how do you instill confidence? I think you do it by making sure, as parents and coaches, that your kids and your players know that you love and care for them because of who they are, not what they do, and the things they can control. Again, as a parent, if you have a child that has a quiz in math and you see them practice and they do their homework and they're putting maximum effort into it, and it's a really hard test and they get a 60 on it, if you really believe they did everything they could, you should be proud of them. It's no different than a pitcher. If he's trying, that kid that tried to throw high balls and he threw one that wasn't high enough and the hitter hit it, it's about controlling the controllables, and there's only so much we can do. And we talk about baseball a lot. That's why we're here. Baseball is a sport of failure. You are going to strike out. You are going to walk players. You're going to hit guys. You're going to make errors. A coach and a parent need to make sure the kids and the players know that as long as their effort and attitude, those are things you can control. Effort and attitude are there. You love and respect them. And have perspective. If you strike out, it's not what you wanted, but are you hooked up to an IV in an oncology unit? That's real. That's real stuff. Who cares that you struck out? Honestly, right. I tell our guys at Bowdoin, we're playing college baseball, so you think, oh, well, it must be win at all costs. Absolutely not. We hate losing. Our coaches are guys that hate losing, but we lose a fair amount. As long as we're controlling the controllables and do everything we can, we tell our guys we love them a lot, and we give them hugs and handshakes. And it's not all kumbaya, but it's not just about wins and losses. It can't be.
Correct.
Imagine how debilitating life would be, especially in baseball, if your parents and coaches only cared about you when you got a hit. That would be horrible.
Yeah, very, very good.
So I think about a lot of those characteristics: confidence, resiliency, humility, discipline. The team comes before me, all those kind of things. Coach Bucket, you kind of said it. It's teaching those things. Now the game, this is kind of what we're talking about. The game of baseball has just the nature of the game has an incredible ability to help us teach those because, as you said, like, oh, geez, I've struck out twice now with the bases loaded. I must suck with the bases loaded. Well, if you start telling yourself that story, it's going to become reality. But if you begin to understand that, wait a minute, I could tell myself a different story. I mean, David Ortiz, one of the greatest clutch hitters ever, got that reputation because he was actually better in the clutch than he was during normal times. He had a higher OPS, higher on base percentage, higher batting average with runners in scoring position and 2 outs than he did in regular situations. But he still made outs 69% of the time, right? He's one of the greatest of all time in those situations, but he still made outs most of the time. It's teaching kids that that one moment doesn't define you, right? And that's That's, I think, why we've said baseball is a great classroom. It is the proving ground.
We need to show, yeah, we need to show kids, especially I'm talking about kids, a good major league player, hitter, will strike out over 200 times every season. 200. Mike Trout averages 200 strikeouts a year. Okay, so if kids know that that's what the best people in the world are doing, I'm not saying it's okay. It's just part of the game. But it's how we as coaches handle it when they do it. I'll give you an example. My first head coaching job at a high school, I would be walking up and down the dugout. I'd be all wound up like 6 cups of coffee, and just on and on and on at practice and during games. And I'll never forget. I was home one night. This is high school, and I'm eating dinner with my wife, and the phone rings, and my wife says, "Hey, it's one of your players, Justin Leach. He wants to talk to you." And I say, "Hey, what's up, Justin?" He says, "Coach, we got together, and I wanted to give you some feedback that you walking up and down the dugout, getting all wound up, we play tighter and tighter and tighter because you're tight." And I'll never forget that phone call, because when I hung up, I said to myself, I need to make a change. And that's when I made a change, and it changed the whole dynamics of the team because of my behavior. I was calm. I was positive. Sure, I could still argue with umpires, but before that phone call, I guess I was a lot worse, because he said the team just played tighter and tighter and tighter because you're tight. So you have to understand, when you're coaching, you're under a microscope, not only with the players but the parents.
It's a great point, Coach, and good on you for understanding and making the change, because it's not just what we say. It's our body language, it's facial expressions. There's times where we don't know. One of my chapters in my book, I talked about my daughter used to play volleyball, and her high school coach was a professional volleyball player. So he was great. He knew the game, but it was his first time coaching, and also first time coaching females. And to his credit, they would record all their matches, and then they would watch them, and they'd kind of go, "Hey, we got to be better at serving," or whatever the situation was. One of their practices, they kind of quietly and pointed out to him, "Coach, look at your body language." He wasn't saying anything, but his body language, he was so tight, or he'd put his head in his hands or whatever, and he had no idea he was doing it. And to his credit, he goes, "Oh my God, girls, I'm sorry." And he made a change, and their whole performance took off, and they ended up having the best record in school history. And it was because of, again, there's a saying, attitude reflects leadership, right? Your players and your kids' attitude is going to reflect what you're feeling. I remember someone asking me one time, "What's one thing you can tell me how to help a hitter in a tense situation?" And I went like this. And he went, "What do you mean?" I said, "If I'm in the third base box and I'm doing my signs or whatever, or he steps up and he gets in and he looks at me, if I go, 'Hey, have some fun right here,' I can literally see tension leave his body and go, 'Oh, I guess it's not that big a deal.' I don't care if it's bases loaded, 2 outs, bottom last inning. If I go, 'Hey, Jimmy, you got this, have fun,' as opposed to, 'Hey,' like when I got veins popping out, the kid's going to be tight. So just relax.
Yep.
Again, it's not about me. It's about them."
Yeah.
I mentioned David Ortiz a minute ago, and a lesson I learned early in the classroom that also applied to the field as a coach or leader is, as you said, I have to reflect what I believe my players can do, right? I got to show that confidence in them, and that is body language is like everything. But I remember David Ortiz being asked how it was. This is like after the 2004 World Series, where he became a legend, right? And they kind of asked him like how do you raise that occasion? He goes, "Before I walk to the batter's box, I think back to being a real poor kid playing ball in the Dominican, And then I look out at the fans and go, oh my God, I get to play baseball for a living. This is unbelievable. And he said, I would just kind of smile going, ah, this is awesome. And that just let everything go. He was just able to rise above the moment because he was grateful for the opportunity, right? And that,
Perspective,
yeah,
right? Perspective.
absolutely perspective, 100%. So, guys, I'm going a little long with this episode, so it's about time to wrap this one up, and we may have to do another one piggyback on this because it is kind of a big episode. Um, I just want to give each of you a chance to kind of, you know, wrap that up. Your thoughts on this whole idea of champions, right? Probably going to go full circle, kind of coming back to where we began with, but what is it as concisely as we can, that message that we hope parents, coaches, and others will get from not just this episode, but ones that we kind of build off from this. Uh, Coach Bucket, you want to go first?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Love it. No, it's I guess the best advice. My focus is the youth group, because when you get to college in the big leagues, those coaches are there for a reason. I'm talking about the guys that are coaching from high school down to 8-year-olds. To really be a champion to me is make sure that you're always prepared and the kids can see that. You actually have a practice plan in your hand. You're not just winging it. You're you the kids never beat you to the ballpark. I've never had a student beat me to my facility for a hitting lesson. That was one of my biggest rules. Okay, because everybody hates people that are late. The third thing would be to create a culture. Okay, we want to win today, but let's do it in a different way. Let's have some fun. Let's encourage each other. So be more of a cheerleader than a third base coach over there moaning and groaning about every pitch and walking between dugout and third base coach like it's the last day of his life. Kids pick up on all that stuff. And to be a real champion, I think you got to be able to minimize some of that stuff and be aware of it. Like that phone call changed my whole coaching to this day. It changed everything about me because I got feedback from a player, not an adult. So it's preparation, being on time, making it fun, and then after the game, don't just highlight people that hit a home run. Address the whole team. I don't ever give out a game ball and all that stuff. I don't think that's fair. I just want to recognize the team for their total effort.
Coach Matt?
Yep. Again, great stuff. There's a lot of things you can say about this, but if you want me to put out a couple of nuggets that people can take with them, I will say this to coaches and to parents. Two things. Make sure you maintain perspective and make it about them. Make it about the kids, not you. And try to focus on the things they can control, the effort and the attitude, because at the end of the day, if they do their best, regardless of the outcome, so focus more on the input than the results. That's where
Yep.
the true magic lies, is focusing more on them. You said it earlier, Chuck. We all would prefer to win than lose, and some of us hate to lose, and some of us just want to win, and that's all great. But as a coach, especially a youth coach, which is what we're trying to address here, it is not about your wins and losses. You're coaching people, not players, and try to uplift them. And nobody cares what you know until they know how much you care. Make
Right.
sure they know you care about them as a human being more than the player and the performance. And that will go a long way toward their relaxation, their perspective, and their confidence.
One of the
Yeah,
reasons.
and back to the three things you talked about, Matt, about a coach being remembered. There's no greater feeling. I'll remember all this. I coached in a 12-year-old team, and I pull up with my truck, and there's 13 guys running to my truck to get the equipment to see me. Not two, not one, but 13. Hey, coach, all that. that is a validation that they're excited to see you versus the guy who pulls in 10 minutes late and he's hungover and, he's just going to rip their ass for 6 innings because of him. I watched it. I watched it on last Saturday. Last Saturday, I went to watch a group of 13-year-olds play, and I couldn't tell you how many red cups I counted. And you know what's in a red cup? On a 88-degree day in Florida, and parents, falling out of their chairs and yelling at the umpire for 6 solid innings. 6 innings, they yelled at this umpire, "Oh, that's a ball. What are you talking about?" It was so embarrassing, but the kids are the ones that get to take the brunt of it. They're not having any fun when their parents are climbing the screens yelling at them. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
One of the reasons I more than strongly encourage the work I do with an athlete is I want the parents going through the very same things, because like the work I do is centered around the stories you tell yourself, taking ownership of those stories, and then weeding out the parts of that story that aren't very supportive. We adults need to do that as much as the kids do. And when parents do that alongside their kids, wow, great things can really happen. So that's one reason why I want the parents always to go, to do it right alongside their kids, because I think, Matt, you said it, that old adage, attitude reflects leadership, or leadership reflects attitude, whatever, however that goes, right? And that begins inside. So we have wrapped up. These half-hour episodes are so short. We'll continue this with the next time. But as always, today's conversation, if it challenged your thinking, if it made you think, awareness is a powerful tool. I would encourage you to share this with another parent, with another coach, with another athlete even. And together, we want to build better athletes, better people, better families, better communities. Right? That's what we're all about. So we are about champions, not captives. Until the next time, live life to the fullest.